in that case, let's let's get started, shall we?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay, cool. Um, well, I know that you like to start things off by just discussing some of the stuff that we've been playing lately, so I'll let you go first.
Right. Well, as people can see, we're doing
Hmm.
Skype today due to the
Yes.
fact that we have scheduling conflict. More or less, I'm not at home, so hopefully the Skype works out.
Hmm.
Other than that, I wanted to talk to you actually before we get into it.
Hmm.
Did you want to go ahead and do the weekly? We can start doing the weekly as of next week if you wanted.
Yeah, I am
Okay.
totally cool with trying to do that weekly if we can, even if it means doing the Skype thing every other week
Right.
or even more frequent, depending on how our schedules go.
Right.
But
I think we have
yeah,
enough topics. I
I
think
think
we
so.
can typically come up with things, pretty well. So
Hmm.
I think weekly
Hmm.
is kind of what I was aiming for. So yeah,
Let's give
and
it
I
a
know you
shot.
brought it up to me like last week. So,
Hmm.
and I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty much what I'm doing.
Excellent.
Okay, getting into it. As far as the games that I've been playing, I started picking up Final Fantasy X again on my Vita. It has been an enjoyable ride. I bought it on Vita, I think last year, right when I bought it. So it's been like September. Um, I bought it then and never really completed the game yet. Obviously, I've beat Final Fantasy X multiple times, but this one's like the HD version, which I guess is like they call it the PAL version. So it's like
Hmm.
the I guess what they got internationally. So everybody else got it other than the United States. So there's like extra bosses and stuff like that that's in it.
Nice.
So it's been pretty fun.
Uh-huh.
Um, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been awesome. It's been a really fun thing. Heists are kind of annoying because you need more than obviously you and one other person. So me and
Hmm.
Eric have been playing, but
Yeah.
um, it's been kind of difficult to get a heist that actually works
Hmm.
and one that works well without having to redo it 100 times. So other than that, the game is great. The mod, the regular trainer mod that came out with it,
Hmm.
is absolutely hilarious. You can turn yourself into an animal. You can fucking drive a car as a chicken. Like it is one of the best things that has ever come out of a trainer.
That sounds
So single
awesome.
player is actually equally fun
Oh,
as multiplayer right now. And then Sunday, I decided to jump back into the rabbit hole, Alex, and I resubscribed to World of Warcraft.
we knew it was coming.
So yeah, I went ahead and heated up the needle
Hmm.
and stuck it into my arm, and
It just
it's still
pressed it
there.
in.
It's not leaving, so it's yeah.
See, most people just bypass their arm. They just go right into the Pulp Fiction style, like through the chest cavity. That's that's how you do it. Shout outs to Firestarter 66 Games and Genius. What's up? All in the
Yeah,
chat, chatting it up.
right. Thank you. And yeah, it's Matt. If you once you freaking get GTA, you will have to play with us because it is extremely fun. Me and Eric never fucking stop laughing when we're playing. It is literally like the best time playing. And can you rob a bank as a blue whale? You could. That's gonna fucking cause some no clipping issues because getting a fucking a whale into a bank is gonna be one of the most difficult things ever. So, the trick is though is that you get into a car as an animal and it kind of hides them, and so when you open the door, they kind of just fling out like out of the side. So it's
Wow,
I think that might be a way to get in there. You know
that's
what? That's an
awesome.
interesting thing. We're gonna have to fucking try this. We're gonna have to try to get a blue whale to rob a bank. That's gonna be the next thing.
Oh man, you'll have a whale of a time. Heck, 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 heck. All right.
What about you, Alex? What have you been playing?
Lately, the big one has probably been the Sequel World. I think I had mentioned it last time as an MMO RPG that I had been approaching with trepidation, but a bunch of my friends have been getting into it. They've been uh, suggesting that I get into as well. Mostly for ulterior motives because they need a fourth guy to help with the crazy dungeons that there are in the game. The
Right.
game is surprising in that like if you have three really high level people and you attempt a dungeon, it's often very tough to the point of like, oh shit, we can't beat this. It's too difficult for
I
us.
like that. I
So,
like
well,
games that
yeah,
are difficult.
yeah, it's awesome, and it is a substantial challenge. But what's odd is that like then they threw me into it with pretty early on, not starter gear, but I mean I'd only been playing for a couple hours tops, and
Right.
we blew through the dungeon. So it seems like throwing more bodies at it, regardless of what your numbers look like, is a substantial. Does make a big difference. So it's good for my self-esteem more than anything.
So, question: how many people can you have in a dungeon?
I believe it's five as the tops,
Okay,
and
so it's
we,
regular 5 man.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And in fact, I think we might have hit our wall because we've. The strategy so far is the three of them, because they play more often than I do, the three of them will attempt a
Right.
dungeon, and they'll hit a brick wall, and they'll go, oh shit, we can't beat this, we need Alex. So they add Alex, the four of us badass through it, and we save the day. Usually it's still difficult, and it takes a couple
Okay.
of party wipes, but we do get
Right.
through it. But I think we have finally hit our wall, and that all four of us attempted a dungeon at the same time for the first time, hit a wall, and this is normally where we add Alex, but we already have an Alex, so now we need our fifth, another one of our friends, a fifth person we know sort of plays the game, so it's a matter of trying
Right.
to rile that up. But I know I've mentioned to a number of people. I think I might have hinted at it to you, Justin. I'm actually off work this week because my new job doesn't start till
Right.
next week. Security clearance takes
Right.
a while to approve.
Oh,
So
this
I've
must
been
be an awesome week of gaming
yeah.
for you.
Oh yeah, so I'm trying to get caught up as much as I can. I'm trying to use this opportunity to, because of course they still are working and they still have jobs and things. So I'm trying to
Right.
use this week of unemployment to to get caught up as best that I can. I'm not gonna get all the way caught up just because they've been playing for way longer than I am, but I am trying to close the
Yeah.
gap.
Okay, so what did you say the level cap was?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know what the level cap is.
Oh, is there
There's
not a level cap?
not really. You don't so
Oh,
much
that's right,
level
because it's
up.
skill based.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
point based, right?
Yeah,
So, okay, so it's
yeah,
got like a Galaxy's Ashen's Call type deal.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Um.
It's a little
Okay.
weird in that
So
sense.
now in dungeons, the question:
Hmm.
a lot of games now aren't going with the tank and healer
Right.
respective. So it's usually you got one tank, 3 DPS, and a
Hmm.
healer. What is a dungeon like for now?
We have been sticking pretty hardcore to the archetype healer, tank, DPSs. In
Okay.
that it's literally what you described, where it's one tank, one healer, and the rest are DPS.
Yes.
And that's kind of on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the game, of course, supplies the tools to do so.
Right.
Um, but if you wanted to branch out and not be just a tank or not be just a healer, it's easy to do so on the fly without too much trouble. It does take spending the skill points, but it's easy to accrue more. So it's it is, I guess, a little standard in that sense of how that's laid out, or at least that's how we've been playing it. I can see there being
Right.
a lot of other ways to do it, and I don't know. We might have to experiment a little bit and get a little freaky with some of the other options, just see if we could get a healer DPS tank thing. I'm. It's hard to branch out too much because it
Right.
works, but
The type works. Like when you have that set in stone, pretty
mhm.
much type deal. The thing I was asking about is because I know new MMOs like Guild Wars. I
Mhm.
know that they have dungeons in Guild Wars. I've never
Yes,
actually done a dungeon in Guild Wars because I didn't get to the
yeah,
level requirement to do
mm.
one. But I know that they don't have healer roles and they don't have tank
Right,
roles. Basically, it's like everyone kind of fends for themselves.
yeah,
I don't mind that. That's kind of
hmm,
cool. It's kind of a being like, oh well, anyone can be anything
yeah,
type deal. But like, it also narrows the field because now every single person is a DPS. So like, I
yeah,
like personally having roles. I think
hmm,
the roles kind of give you a little bit of self pride when it comes
yeah,
down to it because like either like if you're a tank like and
hmm,
you when you do super well at like
yes,
maintaining
yeah,
like when you maintain rotation, when you maintain
hmm,
a constant aggro on the target,
yep,
when you pick up ads and stuff like that, like and
hmm,
like as a healer, you fucking know, like
oh yeah,
that's all I do in WoW is like heal. So like,
yep,
man, I love playing that
hmm,
type of class because you feel like you are an actual like important tool, and
absolutely,
DPS you feel like you're in a pretty important. I mean, less so because you're pretty much just mindlessly damaging a boss.
yep,
But I mean, when it comes like I know WoW more lately has been kind of making it to where DPS has more of a higher role
hmm,
in doing something. So
yeah,
I think if games stick to the archetype as far as the tank healer
hmm,
combo with the DPS. I I think that's where it's at. I think
yeah.
they need to stay with that if they want to make a successful MMO.
It's a fair way to sum it up. So yeah, that's been the big one lately. Um, and I don't intend to spend this whole week playing that. So there's a couple of the games I'd like to get into. If
Right.
nothing else, I do selfishly want to play through Hotline Miami 2, just because.
I was about to
Oh
say, did
man,
you ever even touch that yet?
not yet, and it's been probably at the top of my list of
Oh
single
my
player
God.
games.
I am surprised that you have not because
Yeah.
you love Hotline Miami.
I do. I've fallen into this trap before where the guys with whom I regularly game like to play multiplayer games together because that's usually how it goes when it comes to playing games with
Right.
people. Usually it's multiplayer games, and in a lot of those, I kind of view that as they probably aren't going to want to play this forever, and I love the shit out of playing this
Yeah.
game, so I'll play this with them as much as I can. The single player
Yeah.
games, they can wait because they'll always be there. So I tend to shirk my single player gaming duties in favor of playing multiplayer ones, and in this case, it causes me to you know, not miss out, but delay getting to those
Right.
games that I'm really psyched for. Sometimes that much later. That's just how it
Well,
goes.
the thing I see it, okay. So you were saying like you want to play the multiplayer game
Yep.
whenever everyone else is playing,
Yeah.
right? So I'm in the same boat, like, and it's kind of like a hard pressed topic
Mm-hmm.
because like a lot of new games come out and you're like, oh man, I would really like to play the game, and everyone else is on board playing it. So
Yep.
you buy the game, and then like 3 weeks in, like everyone quits,
Yep.
and you're kind of in it on your own, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, so you always have those fallback games
Yeah.
too, because you're like, well, I know that I'm gonna constantly forever play this game,
Yep.
so whenever somebody wants to come back and join me, maybe they can play, or you have that single player game that you can always, go back and play. I, not to go off topic, but I think it also ties in the fact that, do you ever get bored? I'm just wondering.
Get bored just in general.
Like in general, have you ever been bored? Like on a normal daily basis?
As a child, all the damn time. As an adult, not really anymore, honestly.
Right, right. I think it's the fact that I think gaming honestly makes it to where I can't be bored.
Yeah.
Like, because I always have a game that I could play.
Yeah.
And so like I guess my boredom is automatically tied up.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, well, I'm kind of getting bored. I'm kind of getting to the point
Mm.
where I don't want to do whatever, and then I'm like, well, I have this game I could play through.
Yeah. It's something
Okay.
that has stricken me because so much of childhood seems to be you have a surfeit of time, but a
Right.
deficit of money, surfeit of energy. So you have all this time, have all this energy, but nothing to do with it. So much of childhood, as weird as it might sound, does seem to be about being bored and just learning how to be
Yeah.
just be all right with yep, I'm bored. I'm just sitting here and I'm just being me.
Right.
I don't need constant distractions. Gonna pick Dexter up. He's getting antsy. Come here, Dexter. Here, buddy boy. Take this up. Oh, come here, Dexter, dog. There he is. Say hi. Say hi, Dexter. Hello.
I would say hello to Dexter. I cannot see Dexter.
All right. I try to make him say hi, but yeah, it's just something that always struck me is that as we get older, you find other ways to entertain yourself, and
Right.
not such a big deal anymore.
Right, exactly. And I see so many people, a lot of my friends are like, man, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm bored. And I'm just like, I don't know what bored is anymore. Like I really honestly don't.
Uh-huh.
So
kinda nice.
I guess boredom is like an empty feeling,
Mhm.
And I don't have that empty feeling anymore. I guess
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah.
Like I guess it's a good thing that I'm no longer bored with it.
Yeah.
I find ways to be productive,
Mhm.
whether it's actually being productive
Yeah.
to society or to myself. So
I think as we all get older, we realize that free time is a very precious resource. So you got to make
It is.
absolute best use of it if you can, because it's
Right.
not always going to be there.
no.
But well, anyway, I think that's a good transition into some of the discussion topics.
Yeah.
Were there any big ones that you wanted to discuss from?
The big one that I kind of wanted to discuss or kind of wanted to go over is the whole everything about, because obviously Silent Hill,
Yeah.
actually Silent Hills is
Mhm.
was what they call it, it's been canceled, which we kind of knew was coming
Mhm.
because Hideo Kojima is leaving Konami in
Yes.
some type of weird ass power struggles. Because it's a weird thing because like in Japanese culture, like once you have a job
Mm.
and you work for like a major corporation, like that's your life. Like
Yeah.
you then work for that major corporation for the rest of your life, and that's all it is. Like
Yeah.
it's always work before home
Mhm.
in Japan. So like, and it's kind of like we take it kind of like the opposite way here in America, which is like I don't let work interfere with my home life, but it's
Right.
like in Japan, it's like I don't let my home life interfere with my work.
Yeah.
So, but it's surprising to see because like he's been with Konami for so long and he has produced so many of their like triple A titles that they have made so much money on. And I'm surprised that they pushed him into a position where he's leaving,
Hmm.
you know? Especially with the success of the PT demo,
Yeah.
and with the success of the Metal Gear franchise. Now, I understand that Hideo Kojima himself doesn't want to make any other Metal Gear Solids, but I think he kind of stated he didn't want to make a Metal Gear with Solid Snake.
Hmm.
So he kind of wanted to go a different route, which I
Yeah.
don't blame him because Solid Snake, I mean, there's only so much you can do and so much backstory
Yeah.
that you can shit out
Mm.
like he's been doing. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
And like him leaving Konami is leaving Konami in a spot where what the fuck are they going to make? You know? Now I know that Konami isn't just I mean, they're going to be fine financially
Yeah.
because Konami doesn't only make video games.
Mm.
They actually have like a bunch of fitness centers and
Yeah.
stuff in Japan,
Of all
and
things.
like they have a ton of other things that they can
Mhm.
do to make money. So they don't really need video games to be like their major income, but it
Right.
was a substantial amount
Mm.
coming from them. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was in part to Hideo Kojima.
Most definitely. And I know that you had posted a very insightful article on Facebook a week or two ago
Yeah.
that tried to look at the situation from a more generic perspective, not just Konami, but also taking into consideration Capcom and some of these
Hmm.
other organizations where you used the word power struggle, and I think that's a really good descriptor because it seems like in a lot of these cases there's a brilliant mastermind game designer that has or had a publisher at his or her whim to help fund
Right.
these crazy expensive but crazy ambitious and usually really damn good video games.
Hmm.
It was definitely the case with Capcom with the Mega Man series. It was the case with Konami with the Metal Gear Solid games, Hideo Kojima, and also with Konami, we haven't seen seems like we haven't seen a Castlevania game in a while as well. So it's
No.
um,
What was the last Castlevania? Was it Symphony of the Night? Was that the last one? I can't remember what the last Castlevania was.
there have been some 3D ones for the 360 and the
Oh,
PS3
that's
and the
right.
PC games. To varying degrees of quality, from what I've heard, I haven't played any of them, but
Right,
I've
because
heard mixed things.
they're not really original Castlevania titles.
That's
Right. I
the
mean,
thing.
like
Yeah.
they're not the like more original
Mhm.
story of Castlevania, and they're
Yeah.
definitely not the play. Obviously, they're not the side scroller
Yeah.
playstyle, but
But it definitely does seem that I don't know if you want to call it a business model, but that strategy of having a brilliant, at least with Japanese game development companies, having a brilliant designer calling the shots, those days are kind of over, for better
yeah,
or
they are.
worse. And
Right.
the Hideo Kojima one, I feel like, was the final major nail in the coffin for that strategy of game development.
Yeah.
And I'm not too sure what's going to happen. I mean, like you mentioned, Konami's not going anywhere. I doubt that Capcom's going anywhere either. Resident Evil
No, they're not.
will always continue to print money for them.
It will be, and no matter how shitty Resident Evil is, like now,
Yeah, there's that
it will
too.
still print money.
No, I miss the good old days when Resident Evil was scary, but that's just my own personal uh,
I
bullshit
never,
bias.
I honestly, I might sneeze in a second. I'm just giving you a forewarning.
Should I
But
cover my face?
no, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But like, I never played any other really Resident Evils. I'm trying to think of. I guess there was only one with the Tyrant. I guess that was Resident Evil 1.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know what
so
you're talking about, yeah.
Resident Evil 1 was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
that was a genuinely scary ass game.
Yes, it
And a
is.
really odd, really weird, almost manga type story.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, because you had like Lisa Trevor, who was like worked on as a child, and
yeah,
like the Trevor family who lived at the
yeah.
house. That game was fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed the first Resident Evil. I never played any of the other Resident Evils, and it seemed like I heard that 2 was good, 3 was
Mhm.
okay, and then it and then it just like keeps subsequently dropping off. Like it's like, oh yeah, it was good, it was all right.
Yeah.
It's okay. It was pretty bad. And that seems like the way that it's going. Now, on the other hand, the Resident Evil movies
Oh, yeah.
have never been good.
Correct.
But for some reason, I always watch them to make sure that they are as bad as they should be. Like I don't.
Well, it's only 2 hours of your time, hour and a half to 2 hours. A
Right.
game often takes much more than that. But and I do wholeheartedly agree with the exception that that Resident Evil 4 is by far my favorite in the series. I love that game so much. Such a great or a good mix of action, quick time, bullshit events, and genuine creepy atmosphere. Oh, it's such a good melding of the two approaches. And ever since then, Capcom's been going ham on action for Gears of Resident Evil style gameplay, and really tossed the horror stuff to the wayside, with the exception of the Revelations spin-off series. I think that's been pretty dang good so far, but it's still in its relative infancy, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I really do wish they would get a decent fucking director to make a good game.
Yeah.
Like I wish they could kind of make something like they did for the first couple. But I guess it's hard to make it more you can't really reboot the series. I mean, you could, but it'd be
Yeah,
worthless.
that would be
And
tricky.
you got a lot of shit. I guess it's like it's come to the point where it's like, how do you make new things?
Yeah,
So I guess it's kind of difficult in that standpoint because like I guess with
it
the
is.
first two games you kind of got that thing where you're like, well, we have a lot of ideas and we didn't have enough to finish, put
Yeah.
into the first game, so we have these
No.
leftover ideas we could put into the second.
Right, yeah. Yeah, now they've, of course, established something of a canon. Wesker makes appearances throughout the series, sort of, kind
Yeah,
of.
I get. How is Wesker not? Oh wait, he did die and he was resurrected. I forgot about that.
It gets weird. It gets weird, and it's not fully described. I mean, that's,
Is
that's
Wesker
Resident
actually human now? Still, I don't understand.
I don't know. It's weird. It gets weird. What's going on? Google IDB. Oh man, Goog. Ooh, that's a hell of a screen name. What's up, Goog? I'll just call him that. But yeah, it gets weird, and it seems like the longer the series goes on, the weirder it continues to get. And yeah, I think rebooting would be tricky, to say the least. I don't know. I've strongly mixed opinions on reboots of series, and if it's worthwhile, I just don't know.
Yeah, reboots lately have seen like everyone is wanting to reboot something now. It seems like
Yeah.
so, especially in movies. Movies, there's a lot of let's just fuck it, reboot it, reboot it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, well, there's always that. It does seem like it's. I don't know. I don't want to say flavor of the month, but it does seem like over the past few years, it's become much more frequent. They've been done well, but like I said, I just don't know. It has to be done right. I guess that's what it comes down to. But no, I really enjoyed the article that you posted. I think it did a nice
Yeah.
job of looking at it from an overall standpoint. And, it seems like this pattern, as we've known it throughout the years, is kind of gone by the wayside. So now, with the question of what will Konami and Capcom and all these other Japanese developers that used to hold a significant stake in the just overall market share of game development,
Right.
What will they do now that their masterminds are leaving or have gone
Yeah.
in certain cases?
Well, I mean,
Hard to say.
the one of the things is Kojima kind of has his own thing going anyway.
Yeah.
So like, Kojima obviously has Kojima Productions, which is his
Yes.
own company,
Mhm.
which was basically a subsidiary of Konami anyways.
Yeah.
But I think obviously he's taken the namesake with him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need anyone. Like the thing is like, if someone wants a good game director,
Mhm.
he's now available
Yeah.
for them to, obviously hire to become a game director.
Yeah.
So like, Hideo Kojima is going to be absolutely fine. Like
Yeah.
he has no issue leaving Konami.
Oh, yeah.
like, and it's such a bad thing. Is like I guess Konami doesn't understand that this is what they're giving up. They're not giving up,
Mhm.
just a programmer, game director.
Yeah.
They're literally giving up like all their good franchises.
It's gonna be I don't know. I think it will. I don't want to say that it'll be messy, but it'll be probably a rude awakening to some within that company.
Right.
I think the only thing that may or may not be an issue for Kojima is the money thing. I mean, having
Yeah,
Konami at their whim to publish his game has meant that he had at least their budget available to him. So Not to
Yeah.
say that others won't approach him with ideas, or it's not to say that
Right.
Kojima Productions can't produce their own stuff. They probably could. It just be, I mean, since his games are exceedingly large in scope and in cost, I'm sure that it will be probably a tricky adjustment on both sides of the fence.
I just hope that he can get together with Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro again,
Yes.
and I hope that they can just. It doesn't have to be called. I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck if it's called Silent Hill. Like it could be called anything you want. I don't even care if it has to do with Silent Hill. Just
Yeah.
give me the experience that I experienced in that playable
PT.
playable trailer, like
Yeah.
PT. Give me the experience I experienced in that with the insanely difficult puzzles that I would have never fucking figured out, to be
Yep.
honest. Like
Oh,
without
man.
looking at the internet, like
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't have figured it out.
Yeah.
But like the that is how like a game should be.
Yeah.
Like it should take an effort to fucking complete it, especially a scary game, because that was absolutely terrifying.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the way that the models moved, doors open and stuff like that, like in the whole environment, like
Oh.
they had the right idea.
Yeah.
And I think with Guillermo del Toro backing them up as far as like writing an official story, they had something going really well.
Oh well. Hopefully something. I know that Guillermo del Toro has mentioned that he wanted to do something, that he was super bummed when it got canceled.
Yeah.
So I mean, the will is there.
There,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything else, of course, needs to coalesce. Maybe someday. You know, when
Like
can
when I
we
think
hope?
of Guillermo, I think of Pan's Labyrinth, and I fucking love that movie
Yes.
for how absolutely dark and demented it was.
Those are two very good ways to describe it. Describe him as a director.
Right, right. Well, I mean, like you come into Pan's Labyrinth and you think it's
Uh-huh.
going to be like this story of a child, like basically, you know, spending a time in Spain during World War II. So like, you're like, oh, well, you know, it's just a story about her, you know, the struggle and her finding, you know, her way. But it's
Yeah.
like, this is a child in war, and this is how her mind is escaping, is by believing that
So
all these
cool.
things are real.
Yeah.
Like believing that, you know, this figure, this faun named Pan is talking to her and having her run around all these places, and I don't know, it's just really, it's fucking frightening, because then you see the other side, which is, you know, like the captain they're with smashing some guy's face in with a beer bottle, and you're just like, okay, this story has now turned for the worst.
Yes. That's
So, but I love that type of story.
Yeah.
Like it was really good, and I know that he would have brought something fucking awesome to that game.
Yeah, they're made that those with the established Silent Hill games and Guillermo del Toro's directing style. They do seem like they would be a perfect match.
Right.
I don't know, man. Maybe someday. It's nothing
can
is
only
nothing
hope.
is completely off the table. One can hope, most definitely.
Right.
But what other topics were you wanting to discuss today?
Let's see. So let me go ahead and mark that off on our little spreadsheet today.
Yes.
Ooh. We talked about favorite video game soundtracks, did we not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
We
just
kind
marking
of
stuff
touched on
off
that.
here. Free to play games. I think we kind of went over it. Let's go with platform exclusivity.
Yes.
So, platform exclusivity. Obviously, me and you are huge PC gamers,
Yep.
right? We don't really get exclusives. I mean, we do, I
We
guess,
do.
in a sense of like a lot of MMOs or any of them,
Yeah.
other than like Elder Scrolls Online,
Yeah.
is pretty much a PC only type of title.
Right.
But I think that's kind of going away. I think platform exclusivity is kind of disappearing little by little. Obviously, there's big AAA titles that still come out for a certain platform.
Yeah.
But like Bloodborne just came out for PS4.
Yep.
And then I know that Sunset Overdrive is for Xbox
Yes.
One, which I would really love to play. I want
looks
someone
good.
to lend me their fucking Xbox
Yeah.
One so I can play that game, because that looks awesome.
It does look good.
How do you feel about exclusivity? Like, is it something that you think should continue?
It's something that I've kind of grappled with a lot over the years, and I still don't really have a solid answer. My answer to most things in life is it depends. Because I just don't know. On the one hand, I think in a perfect world, I think every game should be available to any platform of their choice.
Right.
That's of course Alex's little perfect dream world. That's never gonna fucking happen
It's not a
because,
programming world, right?
well, there's that too. But well, yeah, and that's the other thing. If it was Alex's perfect world, everything would be open sourced, and there would be no
Yeah.
copyright laws for yeah. We're getting into weird territory, but but
I'll note that down
weird
for future
territories.
topic.
Cross it off the list. But
Copyright.
yeah, yeah. But that could you could apply that towards any creative like music
Right.
or yeah, it gets weird. But but yeah, when it comes when it comes to platform exclusivity, um, it's tricky. On the one hand, it costs a lot of money to well, I guess it depends on what type of conversion it is, but to go from Xbox to PS3 to PS4 to Xbox One to Nintendo Wii U and PC. I mean, I think by default a lot of people assume that back in the PS3, Xbox 360 days that those were fairly close together.
They weren't.
And
They
yeah,
were
that's
not.
exactly it. From an architectural perspective, they were extraordinarily different, which is why
Well,
there were times
PS
where. Oh yeah, go ahead.
PS3 did it run off of a it ran off of a Unix
Yes.
system, didn't it?
Something like, well, I don't know, I would have to look it up. I can't remember, but it was something that was rather proprietary, and it caused
Yeah, it was very
developers a lot of grief early
right.
on. So, and that granted that improved over the years, as it often does. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
you'll just notice from a technical perspective, games that came out for the late NES years did way better than the early NES years because developers just
Right.
get used to the technology,
Yeah.
or the
When you're near the
development
end of the
tools.
the console generation, you start getting the titles that are actually pushing the
Yeah.
fucking limits of the system.
Yes, yeah, and they've adapted well because oftentimes early on it might be a game that started off on the previous generation. I always like to talk about Eternal
Yeah.
Darkness because that was intended to be an N64 game, but kind of in the last half of
Where
development was brought into GameCube.
Okay, it was GameCube that came out.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it doesn't look great. It looks okay, but you can tell it's very much early GameCube. And when people find out that it was originally intended for N64, the reaction is always, "Oh, that explains a lot." But it does take a lot of development man hours and of course a lot of resources to develop entirely with the intention of one platform in mind. Then after the fact to port it over to a new one, or even worse, to concurrently develop for multiple platforms at the same time. I think the most ambitious version of that I can think of was way back many moons ago, when not the original, but the first of the new Prince of Persia games came out for the PS2 and the Xbox and the GameCube
Yeah.
and the DS
I
and the
remember
Game Boy Advance.
I remember
and the
actually
phone.
playing a demo for that.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a really good game, and it came out well. And the biggest thing that struck me about it was that it came out for all these systems all at the same
Right.
time, and they all turned out pretty darn well. And presumably they all sold pretty darn well. But it struck me how uncommon that was for them to say from the get go, we're making this for pretty much every goddamn platform you can imagine. Now that of course Mac for gaming is starting to become more prevalent, and Linux for gaming as well. So the number of potential platforms is continuing to expand. It's only going to get more complicated for developers to keep up, or for I
Absolutely.
guess development
Yeah.
companies to keep up.
I wish
Yeah.
I wish Linux would take off a little bit more than it has. I know that Steam was pushing
Yeah.
hard for Linux.
Mhm.
Um, I want more out of that because I
Mm.
would love for myself to just only have a Linux machine.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the Linux platform. I love Ubuntu. Like
Mhm.
those platforms are amazing.
Yeah.
And like playing Team Fortress, I have played Team Fortress using my PC using Ubuntu,
Yeah.
and my frame rate was tenfold better than what it was on a
Nice.
Windows machine.
Yeah.
Just straight up due to the fact that there was no fucking processes running in the background. Like
Yep.
there's nothing running other than the game you were playing.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds nice.
it is an awesome
Mhm.
thing. So I'm kind of excited actually on that topic. Just real quick, we'll divert
Yeah.
real quick, but
Divert away.
Windows 10, I'm actually kind of excited to,
Oh,
to
yeah.
try that out.
Uh-huh.
But okay, now we'll revert back.
That's good. That's good. It's yeah. Just to sum up my thoughts on it, it's an exceedingly complicated topic that will only get more complicated. It makes sense, I think, in a lot of ways when developers do decide to make something console exclusive.
Right.
I mean, Nintendo's probably the biggest offender of that. I mean, their Nintendo
They
games
do ma-
come out on Nintendo consoles. That's pretty much a done deal.
That's pretty much it. Like
Yeah.
they do not do anything else.
Right. Yeah. And
But it's odd. The thing is like Nintendo does make their own games though.
They do.
Like Sony doesn't really make their own games. You know,
It depends.
Microsoft doesn't really make their own games. I mean, they have like Bungie, I
Yeah.
guess. So they've bought or 343
Hmm.
Industries, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Good distinction. Yeah.
because Bungie obviously has made a PS4
Right.
title, they've made Destiny for PS4.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense for a game developer or slash publisher in Nintendo's case that makes their own hardware. That of course they would want people to buy their hardware to play their games. It made sense for Sega back when they made hardware. Now that they've gone
Right.
software only, they've gone, of course, making stuff for all platforms. But yeah, it in that case it makes sense. Um, and taking my Nintendo, if I take off my Nintendo fanboy hat, put on my just generic gamer hat, it would be awfully nice if I could play a Nintendo game on my PC, for example. Convenience for one thing, but it's as long as Nintendo's on the hardware market, it's never going to happen. So it's something that, on like the fanboy perspective, from my fanboy perspective, I might say like, no, Nintendo needs those games to survive, or oh man, it's so unfair that this game didn't get ported to the Wii U. But in
Right.
the grand scheme of things, oftentimes it makes perfect sense why
Mhm.
it did get ported or why it didn't. Um, Taking the Wii U as a good example of that, I mean, it's not nearly as powerful as the Xbox One or the PS4. So to make a Wii U port for a Xbox One or PS4 game would be significantly difficult in a lot of cases, and I don't blame developers that look at that and go, "Sorry, man, not really worth it because it might not sell well, and based on these numbers, it probably won't. So sorry, Nintendo, we're just gonna keep going." I can't blame them.
Right. No. One other thing I wanted to talk about is really close to this topic is the cross-platform online multiplayer games.
Oh yeah,
So there's only been a few that have
Mm.
actually been able to do it.
yeah,
One of them actually that worked really well
Mhm.
was Halo 2. Halo 2 was one of the first games I ever played that was initially cross-platform online
Mhm.
multiplayer. PC gamers playing Halo 2 could play against Halo 2 players on the
Mhm.
Xbox. And you got absolutely fucking raped by anyone who was using a
Yes.
PC to play because, to be completely honest, you cannot match
Mhm.
the quickness of somebody with a keyboard and mouse with
Yeah.
a controller. Like you just can't. It's
Yeah.
not. It's absolutely not possible. You have more accuracy with a mouse
Mhm.
than you do with a joystick. So
Oh
people were getting absolutely destroyed. So they actually ended up turning the feature off.
yeah,
Um, and they made it to where only PC players could play PC players. But for a
Yeah.
time, it was extremely fun and it was really well done.
Yeah.
It was really seamless. Like people played either you played with a keyboard and mouse or you played with an Xbox controller. I'm trying to think of another game. I know that one was the first one, but
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely remember. I remember hearing the same thing actually about the Xbox, about one of the Halo games attempting it, and like you described, I mean, the amount of control that a mouse gives you versus analog sticks.
Right.
There are people that prefer the analog sticks over the mouse control,
Mhm.
which is perfectly okay. But for most people, mouse is where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, from a completely, mostly unrelated but just purely nerdy standpoint, the person who invented or at least designed the mouse, it was probably not one person, but one of the main people who designed the mouse that we all know and love today, was able to market it or to basically convince the person to sell it or to buy into it rather. Did so through like basically empirical evidence to suggest like to prove mathematically that like this is the best input device for a one-handed mouse mover ever.
Right.
Like we can never improve our how we like if you have in this one specific instance you have a mouse cursor on the screen, you want to move it with one hand. The mouse design that we have here is as good as it's ever going to get forever, and it has to do with the fact that if I want to get to the start button, you need to move it a couple centimeters or so, maybe an inch depending on your mouse sensitivity, to infinity. And the infinity is because when you keep moving your mouse, the mouse cursor stays down there. So it's
Right.
So like it's infinite. Like to get to a point they needed to, it goes from X to infinity, and that's really damn
That's
good.
awesome.
So it came down to
Yeah.
like proving like here's the mathematical formula that proves to you that my invention is as good as it's ever gonna get. Ta-da! And the guy was like, sold. So.
Well, the guy was right.
So yeah, so looking at it from a video game perspective, that you could extend that evidence to say, hey man, this mouse control that's as good as it's gonna get, also forever.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you literally cannot get any better as far as shooting. I will say though, for any type of driving game that I play, I have to play with a controller, like,
Yeah.
because I cannot get that. I like the variable speed with
Yeah.
the stick with the triggers,
Mhm.
and I like to be able to turn at a normal fucking
Ain't
rate.
that the truth?
So yeah, maybe if they make a fucking keyboard that's touch sensitive, kind of like the PlayStation controllers were for
Yeah.
PS2,
Uh-huh.
then yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be tough to control, even with a mouse, because
Right.
it'd be too sensitive. Ugh, it would throw me
Yeah.
off. And plus, you need to control the camera. Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Driving games,
Hmm.
there are certainly, most definitely exceptions to the rule. Platformers, I think, are another good example, where the
Yeah.
full degree of motion is so much nicer than the little arrow keys or WSAD.
Very true.
So,
There's a place for each input device, I
there
believe.
is.
Except for a trackball. If you have a trackball, please throw it into a fucking fire and burn that motherfucker alive. I mean, well, it's not. It's an adamant, but please burn it.
I think you could go worse than a trackball as long as you don't have the trackpad or the
Oh
track
no!
nub, the little nub that some laptops have,
The one in the center.
the little red keyboard clitoris, the little that
Yeah,
guy.
I used to play Doom with that.
You are a braver
I'm
soul
just
than
kidding.
I.
No,
Oh
there's no way.
God,
There's no way.
I was about to bow down and worship you. How would you even do that? Man, that would be awesome.
That would be hilarious.
Oh God. Oh man, that's awesome.
But
did
yeah.
you- yeah. Did you have any additional thoughts on cross-platform stuff or platform exclusivity?
Platform exclusivity. No, not really. I mean, I hope that we get to the day where everything can be
Mhm.
kind of everywhere,
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard off from a definite structural standpoint, like in a behind the scenes, more coding standpoint.
Yeah.
That shit's fucking hard because
Can be.
you literally have to do everything, and like that's the thing that people didn't understand with the Grand Theft Auto 5 for PC is like
Yes.
they didn't. They're obviously porting a lot of the features from the console.
Yeah.
They were working on this when it was released initially, but
Mhm.
it takes a lot because not everything's the same, and you have to constantly test. You have to test everything
Mhm.
to make sure everything works.
Yeah.
And people get so upset. Like obviously, everyone was upset whenever they said that they couldn't release it in
Yeah.
early January. So everyone was like, "Well, fuck,
Yeah.
what's happening?" And they're like, "Well, we need more time for testing." Which,
Mhm.
the rule of thumb is if anyone ever pushes a game back, it's never a bad thing. It
Right.
can't be a bad thing because the only thing that can come out of it is that
A better game.
it's going to get better.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it's going to be a better game when it's released
Mhm.
because they're going to have more time to actually test it.
Mhm.
They're going to have more time to fucking get the game breaking bugs out of it. So
Yes.
it's never a bad thing on a consumer side, but it's a bad thing, I guess, for a development side due to the fact that you are going to have those people that just won't buy the game now because they're going to be so stuck up against the fact that you made them wait.
Right. You definitely do
So-
want to strike when the iron's hot from a business perspective, of course, and that's what a lot
Right.
of this comes down to. Much as none of us like to admit it, oftentimes, it's a business. People are out to make money, and like you described, it would be nice if things could be more open, but proprietary business practices dictate that it's probably never gonna reach that case. But
Right.
but you raised a really good point though, especially when it comes to porting from console to PC. I think from PC to console, not always, but tends to be sometimes a little easier, if not just because a console is a console. A spade is a spade. An Xbox One is an Xbox One. You know what the architecture for the Xbox One is when I'm a developer. I'm gonna develop the Xbox One. I know the architecture. I know the specs. I know how people are gonna use it. I know the controllers. I know the everything. Well, what about a PC? Shit, I don't know, man. Like a million billion different configurations and operating systems, and that's staggering to think about. So, like, AMD versus Intel, Nvidia versus dude, I
Yeah.
would sooner hang myself than get
Right.
lost in those details because it would drive me bonkers. So
Yeah.
I do not envy that position.
No. Oh, AMD versus Intel, man. I have been a switcher as far as AMD
Yeah.
versus Intel.
Me too.
Man, I do love Intel has got the upper hand definitely right now
I think
due
so.
to the fact that I mean they're pretty far ahead
Yeah.
as far as processors go for AMD.
Mhm.
I mean the i5 and the i7 platform is one
Running
of the
strong.
best platforms that have ever come out.
Yeah.
Like they are insanely good processors.
It is. It is.
And then there's the whole thing. I mean, you could stick it in with AMD and Intel because Nvidia and Nvidia
Yeah.
and ATI are
Radeon
both
or ATI,
owned
yeah.
by them.
Yeah.
So, um, God, Nvidia's doing so well right now
They are.
with video cards.
Yeah.
They're marketing it correctly.
Yes, they are.
They're doing extremely well with getting their product name out.
Mm.
That people are just eating up
Yes.
their cards. Like they're just buying them left and right. I mean, I'm one of those people. I last year bought 2 video cards. Like I bought one in April, I think, March or April. I bought a 660.
Oh, nice. That's what I'm using.
And then whenever September rolled around, they were like, "Oh, we have a brand new GPU coming out. We have the 900 series, the 970, 980."
Yes.
And then I was like, "I'm gonna buy a 970."
Yep.
And then I did.
No
November,
regrets.
I bought a 970, and I had no regrets over that because that is one hell of a graphics card because it's quiet, it runs cool, and it fucking just shits out awesome frame rates.
Just dumps the pile, like polygons everywhere.
Very inexpensive too. I mean, inexpensive. It's compared to any other card that's actually performed as well as this. I mean, it pairs up with the original Titan card. And kind of surpasses that as far as performance-wise. Obviously, you're not going to get the RAM that the Titan has. The Titan has, I think, 12 to 16 gig of RAM built into the actual card itself, so you're not going to get that video RAM. But you are going to get the performance from the actual chip. So, but I mean, playing any normal game, you're going to be able to run it pretty much always at max settings with pretty good frames.
Yeah.
I am a pretty big stickler about 60 frames, so I will always lower graphics until I can get the 60. So, yeah.
I'm laughing because there were 2 images that I saw earlier today. One of them, it showed someone playing Grand Theft Auto. Well, it was like a depiction of someone playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and they had the FPS counter in the upper left-hand corner, and it's like 60. It shows, and it's like multiple panels, so 60, 60, 60. 59.9, the person sees it. The next picture is a CPU, no, not a CPU, an entire computer in a super small trash can, like sitting on top, like just kind of balanced precariously over a trash can.
Oh my god.
And then the second one was the same beginning, so 60, 60, 60, 59.9, person looks at it, and then the next frame is like MS Paint, Grand Theft Auto 5, and the person's like, much better, is doing like the, that one, I don't know what you call the meme, but the guy's got the face. It's like, that's much better. So, that's why that's so fucking funny to me right now.
God, I love. I'm I'm that guy. I do love all of my games to play at like the best frame rate. I guess it comes from whenever I first started building my PCs. I mean, I didn't have any money or anything, so like I was just reliant on like either people wanting to sell me their old video card or my parents being very generous and wanting to buy me something. So, but I never got like the top of the line card.
Right.
So I was never able to play, this new generation games. Like I remember when Oblivion came out.
Yeah.
And I bought a new card for Oblivion. But the card obviously was like 2 generations behind because it was only like an $80 card at the time. So I'm like, oh yeah, I bought this $80 graphics card, and I'm like, I'm gonna play Oblivion. And I remember. I remember playing on like I cranked up the settings to like max.
Oh man.
And I played at like 3 frames a second, and I thought I was just like, man, this is the life right here.
This is it. It's never gonna get better.
And then like I go back and play like if I were to even load up fucking Oblivion, like I'm just like, these graphics are so bad, like these are so terrible. But at the time you thought they were so good, and then you can see how far graphics chips have come, and like how far games have come in general as far as graphics. And I'm not talking about like the transition from like 8-bit to polygons, like obviously that's a big step, but that's near there. Like the big step is seeing the increase in polygons, like seeing the increase, the less jagged edges that you see. So
it's continues to improve.
It's crazy.
It is, and in 5 years from now, we'll be saying the same thing. Man, remember when Skyrim came out? Or, man, remember when Crysis 2 came out? Psh, what a bunch of scrub bullshit that was.
Right.
So, it's funny how it all comes down to perspective.
Right. Yeah. All in all, I'm just glad I'm able to afford a good graphics card now.
Yeah. Something we can all appreciate as we all reach our
Thank you,
adulthood.
job.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. Adulting correctly.
Right.
Um, there was one topic I would like to talk
Sure.
about a little bit,
Yeah, what's up?
and in a lot of ways, to me, it's been the 1,000-ton gorilla, because we were singing the praises of Valve, so jubilantly last week,
I know it's coming.
and then. Like, what was it? One day after that,
It was
I was
one
like,
day.
"Hey, man, mods,
Well,
wee!"
Gabe did an AMA on Reddit
Yep.
within the first 6 hours that it went live. So, I mean, that was
That was some
honestly,
shit.
I didn't catch it right off the bat when they first initially did it.
Mhm.
I caught wind of it whenever, so I saw that the paid mods were live,
Mhm.
right? And then immediately after, I saw a post that was like, it was like, this guy's selling his fishing minigame
Yes,
for $5
yeah.
on Steam. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And
Yeah.
somebody posted a video of him playing, and he's like, this is literally the worst mod I've ever played.
Oh man. Yeah, I didn't see the video, but I saw that post and.
Oh my god, I was fucking
Yeah,
dying.
Yeah, that was.
And and then to myself, I'm like, this does kind of sound like a bad idea because,
big time.
for one, it's a good idea on the perspective that you would have to trust the person making the mod to continue making it,
Mhm.
to continue on developing for it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. If you want to support them, sure, that's cool.
Mm.
But then you have people who are literally only in it to scam people out of money,
There's
and that's a
that.
hard set thing you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's awkward.
And there were a lot of people like that.
Yes.
First day. Like there was a lot of people putting out nothing
Yeah.
and wanting money for it.
Or
So
worse, stealing the content from another mod and putting it up, publishing it as their own.
right, right.
There was some bullshit going down.
So I'm glad they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I think there's a time and a place for that. I don't think it's with Steam or Valve right now.
Mhm.
I think the workshop mods are cool. I
Mhm.
think if you want to contribute and help a person with the workshop mods, donate to them
Yes.
by all means.
Mhm.
But I see the paid mod thing as more like a fucking Kickstarter, which is
In a way.
sure,
Yeah.
give me money, but I'm
Mhm.
not promising you anything.
Right. It is a risk. And yeah, I think I had similar reactions when the announcement dropped, where at first I thought to myself, that's an interesting idea, and I understand that they're wanting to get more Killing Floor success stories or more
Right.
total conversion mods that go independent in the sense of like we're no longer a mod, we're a standalone game. Like,
Yes.
we had our beginnings in the modding community, but now we're on our own, and I think they want more of that. Of course, Valve would want that because that means they would have their games on Steam, and that involves people usually selling them on Steam. So I mean, from their perspective, it's good, but just from an overall development community perspective, you want the indies to succeed. You want the mom and pop game development shops to rise to success. I know I sure as hell do. But it's exactly like you mentioned. That's an extremely complicated quagmire to approach.
Right.
Just from a legal perspective, I mean, thinking about like ownership and just like the bullshit copyright stuff I had mentioned earlier. Like, man, when it comes to selling that kind of stuff and what ownership rights are implied, and I don't know, I feel like that alone would scare me away. Like, if I was a modder, that alone would scare me away from considering Steam as my platform of choice for developing my mods.
Yeah.
And yeah, then like you'd mentioned, there's the scammers, people who are just making bullshit mods, or worse, the people who were downloading a mod from
then
some dude
reselling
and then putting it on the market to sell it, and people perfectly innocently, buying it, not just
Buying
because
it.
they didn't know, because how would they? So, yeah, there's
Right.
so many weird and complicated
There was
things.
a metric fuck ton of
Oof.
new mods that were on the store the day
Yeah.
of the release.
Yeah.
So like something was fishy
Oh, yeah.
whenever
Big time.
that was happening. So
Yeah.
I just it's a cool concept. I wish they could work something out to do it where you could pay the people who make mods, because honestly, people spend a lot of time making mods.
Yeah.
I mean, if people make like full conversion mods for
Mhm.
a lot of games, like it takes a lot of work.
It does. It does. Well, hell, just today, Black Mesa has entered early access.
Oh,
and it's
was that
$20.
the countdown timer?
Yes, it was. Yeah, and
Cool,
I think
cool.
I think they completed Zen. I think don't quote me on it, but I think it's the whole storyline is complete. So it's so Black Mesa is on Steam right now. It's $20, and yeah, that's another success story that I think
That is.
they want to
I'm glad that
push to the
I'm
top.
glad that Valve actually kind of gave them their praise to do that.
Yeah,
So
not like another company I know, Nintendo, with the Mario 64 uh, browser game that got them so much good VR
it did.
until they snubbed that cigarette out,
What
and
the fuck? It was so stupid
it
too
was
because
so
I loved playing
cool.
Mario 64 in my fucking web browser. That was like the one
Yeah,
of the best times ever.
it bums me out, and at the same time, I it doesn't surprise me,
No,
partly based on Nintendo's past, and also because they keep a very watchful eye over their IPs. So I
they
mean,
do.
I on the one hand I understand you don't want someone to make a shitty Mario game,
No.
call it a Mario game, and have people associated with that shitty one. But this was not a shitty little thing. This was a really well made. Oh, why can't we have nice things? Table flip. But
Uh,
Bible thump.
but
I'm Bible sad.
speaking of table flip, did you see that there's a table flip arcade game in Japan?
I've seen it. I've never seen it in person or like seen it like I've never seen like
There's a gif
uh
of somebody using it,
oh maybe I have seen that.
and it's one of the
Yeah,
best fucking things ever.
I kind of want to play it. I kind of want to play it and hurt my and injure myself like injure my shoulder or
Right.
something as I
How hard can you table
yeah.
flip this?
I one thing that I'm a huge fan of. I know that they did this at when I while I was in college. They did this throughout the university, and they also did this a bunch in Magfest, where they'll set up a table flipping charity drive, where depending on how much money you
That is
donate,
awesome.
they'll set up a folding table, and yeah, depending on how much money, if it's $5, they might put a paper plate and a couple some napkins on it. If you donate $20, they might put like a glass of water or like more stuff that you can that will get spilled when you finally flip and it's a great way to of course relieve stress. I know that on
That
campus
is
they would do
awesome.
this on finals week because everyone's pissed off and tense and needs to vent those
Mhm.
frustrations. But and a great way to raise money because like I said, all you got to do is set up the stuff, whether it's food or just things that are designed like glitter. I don't know, shit that's just designed to make a mess. You have them flip the shit and you clean it up, set the table back up. All right, who's next? So that's always fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and I
That
could use
is
it. I could
really
use
awesome.
I have days where I feel like I could use a few table flips myself. But but yeah, man, the mod thing was a bummer. I get the feeling that that's not the last of it. It seemed like
No.
when Steam, or I guess maybe it was even Gabe himself, made the post that said maybe we're gonna back to the drawing board. They'll
Which I'm sure they will.
probably it'll probably rear its head again. Um,
But I mean they tried. They tried
they
something
did.
and I'm glad that they listened to the community
Mhm.
which was saying, "Please fucking stop
Yeah,
this. Like this is ruining
yeah.
everything. Please stop
Yeah.
this." And they did.
In all
And
fairness, they did.
they pulled it off and they're going to work on it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's Valve. I do trust them.
Yeah.
So I trust them as a company to be
Hmm.
able to put out something that actually works.
Yeah. Do you think the
So
mod fiasco has changed your opinion of them at all?
no. I mean, I don't think that they were doing it to become a cash cow.
Hmm.
I don't think they were trying to cash in on it. I think
Yeah.
they were honestly trying to help the community
Hmm.
by making it to where people who spend all this time
Hmm.
making I mean, this is what I want to believe that
Yeah.
Valve is doing. Is I want
Yeah.
to believe that they're helping out the community, being like, oh well, we know that you made you spent all this time on this mod, like that Skyrim mod that was a full convert, added
Yeah.
a whole new place, was fully voice acted,
Hmm.
like. That should be a paid mod. Like
Yeah.
honestly, I believe that should be like somebody should make at least $5 per license off that. Like that was a really good, almost expansion
Yeah.
to Skyrim.
Mhm.
So like for that sake, I believe that people should have paid for that, and people could I shouldn't say should have. People should have been offered the opportunity to pay for that,
Yeah.
and the person who made it would have made money off of
Mhm.
it, and would have paid for the time that he did spend making it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think in that respect, I think that's what Valve was trying to do,
Mhm.
is trying to make it to where the people who do spend a lot of times on these mods make money off of it,
Mhm.
and make make back what they spent into it.
Yeah.
So
That's understandable.
I think it's a good idea. I just think it really has to be done right,
Mm,
and I think there definitely needs to be a verification process in it.
yeah.
It can't be like fucking it can't be like Google Play Store where people can fucking put up a picture of a dildo and sell it for fucking 99 cents.
Yeah.
It needs a little more.
Some sort of vetting process.
Yeah, it needs something to be verified. You
Yeah.
know, somebody needs to play it. Somebody
Hmm.
needs to make sure everything's in it. Somebody
Yeah.
needs to make sure that it's up to par for what they want to sell it for.
Hmm.
And I think after that, I think it's fine. I think
Hmm.
Valve can at least donate some people to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like they obviously are making a lot of money doing this, and I
Hmm.
think this would help them out because, for one, they're not doing this for free. I know that they were making a cut from
Yeah.
the people who were selling the mods. I mean,
Yeah.
Valve was making money off of it.
Big
So,
time.
right. So, like, Valve will still make money. I think they should just have a team dedicated to verifying these mods.
Hmm.
So,
That's true. That's a very fair point. Of course, as it gets more popular, they would need the verification process.
oh, yeah.
Would probably need to be automated by some way, but you know,
Right. And I'm
that's
sure it's something that could be created.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I think so too. There was one discussion that I saw that kind of arose out of this because a lot of mods, a lot of games that we know play now, that started as mods and of course are now independent,
yeah.
are still free to play, and this kind of goes back to the free to play discussion. Dota 2, heck, I mean that's a perfect example
Right.
of a game that started off as a Warcraft 3 mod, it kind of blossomed into
Yep.
Dota. Dota 2 comes out, and it's all free to play. And the question was, would a mod be successful if it was anything but free to play? Because it seems like for a lot of these that
True.
not all of them. I'm a big fan of Killing Floor, and that one's a paid game, both one
It
and
is a
two.
paid game.
But the question is it more likely for a mod to be when it goes standalone? Is it more likely that it'll be successful if it's free to play versus um, not free to play?
Initially, yeah. Initially, it's gonna be definitely more successful, I think, in my opinion, because I mean, it's free. People are going to be able to play it. More people are going to be able to play it because there obviously there's a ton of people who don't have money. There's a ton of people who don't have jobs. There's a lot of kids who, obviously still live at home, still, they're like 15 years old,
Yep.
like they haven't had a job yet.
Been
And
there.
right,
Yeah.
we've all been there.
Oh yeah.
So it's like this free to play game comes out and you're just like, well, I can play that.
Mhm.
Like I can play with my friends, I
Yeah.
can do this. So I think League of Legends did it really
Yeah.
well with hitting that off because they are a free to play game and they naturalized the MOBA scene.
Mhm.
Like they hit the nail on the head with what people
Yes.
wanted.
Mhm.
You want to play multiplayer, sure. And you know what? We're gonna make a game to where when you pay, it's
Oh.
not pay to win. You're only paying for cosmetic items.
Right.
Like you can't pay to win in this game.
Yeah.
So that's what I really like, and I want to say that like Hearthstone does well with that too, with
Mhm.
being free to play. But the thing is that Hearthstone is more. It's not really a free to play game. It is a free to play game.
Yeah.
You're not going to get very far without buying cards. To be 100%
Oh.
honest, if
That's
you
fair.
buy like because you get a deck like when you first start, they give you
Yeah.
enough points to actually buy a deck of cards.
Mhm.
That's not going to take you very far. You actually have to spend at least, I'm going to say at least 60, $30 to $60 to actually get a decent deck going.
Mhm.
And if you really want to make it up to the legendary status, you're going to have almost the entire bank of cards at your
Ooh.
disposal. So,
That's how it goes.
yeah, and the thing with that game is like the meta of the game changes so drastically
Mhm.
because like the people you face at higher ranks, the people you face at 20s are at times more difficult than the people you face at lower ranks.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that people are using different strategies to kind of throw you off. So like everyone will use the same strategy at like level 20,
Yeah.
and level 15, and you get down to level 10, and the people are using these basic ass strategies
Yeah.
that people started off with
Uh-huh.
using, and it throws you off, and they
Yeah.
win. And that's when you understand like how this game is and
Yeah.
how this game is played. Is that once you have the ability to utilize all these cards,
Mhm.
and once you have the ability to make all these different kinds of decks to kind of throw people off, it's really crazy. But yeah, that game is free to play, and they did it right as far
Mhm.
as being able to download on every device and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a free to play game, that's for sure.
That's a
But
good
I mean,
distinction.
free to play games. I mean, I think if you're going to start off being a free to play game, you're going to be very popular
Hmm.
to start off. Well, it depends on how you do it. Don't make pay to win.
Yep.
Don't make it an obvious pay to win. Like
Yep.
Hearthstone isn't an obvious pay to win until you've played for a while and you're like, holy shit, I don't have any cards. Like I literally have to buy
Yep.
some cards.
Oh.
I mean, you can get points. Obviously, you can get points. You could play forever and try to
Mhm.
get all these fucking cards, but you're never going to get any.
Right. That's usually it's not required that you spend money. It's just
No.
encouraged. Like, oh, you could spend 20 hours or
Yeah.
like a couple bucks. It's hardly any money at all. Why the hell not? That's how they get you. But
Yep.
we're all guilty of it, so no one's
Oh,
no
yeah.
one's innocent.
No. I mean, and I'm trying to think of the game that I spent the most money on. Just like, man, I spent a lot of money on Magicka, even though I mean that was just DLC, but
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of money in Dota 2 as
Oh.
well. I did spend a lot of money, but that was cosmetic stuff, and it's just cool to have
Yeah.
extra cosmetic stuff because like you don't want to look like everyone else. You know, it's like any
Mhm.
type of like MMO you play, you don't want to look like another
Right.
person. You don't want to look like a general person.
Mhm.
So like you're gonna I forked up the cash to spend money. So
Gotta make yourself look pretty.
right.
That's understandable.
Hmm.
Well, I know we've been going for a little while.
Yeah.
Would you like to do maybe one last topic to wrap things up?
Sure. Let's try to get a short one here.
Okay. I like short
Um,
things.
Because you are a hobbit, aren't you?
A super hobbit. For people who in the chat who don't know, I'm a really short dude in real life, which is where the name comes from. I'm like 5'2". I'm a tiny dude.
I actually don't have anything. I can't think of anything on the list we actually haven't covered between going off topic and on topic.
No.
Do you have anything you want to kind of finish off with?
What's going on, Rick Clayton? Thanks for joining, man. As far as just general stuff, there actually was one thing that should be fairly quick to go over, if not just by the nature of the topic. Speedruns. Are you a fan of speedruns at all,
Oh,
Justin?
man, a good topic. I am a very big fan of speedruns.
Nice.
Speedruns are fucking awesome in finding out how the way that people break games.
No. That's
Like
a
I
good way
think
to
that's the
describe it.
easiest way to find how to fucking manipulate a game
Yeah.
is watching the speedrun community because they're literally a group of hive mind people
Oh,
whose sole purpose is to get the fastest time no matter what.
yeah.
Like any percents
Mhm.
are nice because that's when you really see the fucking game breaking bugs. Like
Yep.
Ocarina of Time has come down to the point that it's basically not even a fucking game anymore.
Or is it sub 19 now? I can't remember what the world record is, but it's.
Oh, it's sub 19. It's
Yeah.
been sub 19 for a bit, but they just keep getting barely faster
Yep.
by finding these odd fucking glitches.
Oh,
Whether it's setting up the memory to entering a room where
Yep.
it ports you to another fucking place, or it's just insane what the PlayStation had to go through. Now, one of my favorite speedruns I've ever watched was Kingdom Hearts 2 speedrun,
Oh, yeah.
and it was the fact that the game really doesn't have any glitches that you can really manipulate. It was just raw skill that it came
Yes.
down to, like nailing combos in the
Yeah.
perfect time
Uh-huh.
and like finding certain enemies at the right time.
Mhm.
It was a really cool speedrun to watch. It took, I don't remember how fucking long that was. I know it was separated into a couple different videos.
Yeah.
I spent a whole day watching it.
Nice.
So it was awesome. It was really cool.
Oh, that's always the best way to do it.
I know you love speedruns. I mean, we both were watching the Awesome Games Done Quick. and all
Yeah.
that, so.
Oh man, I love those guys. It's so freaking good.
What is your opinion on speedruns? What do you like about them?
A lot of the stuff that you described is very very near and dear to my heart as well. Like you described, it's a matter of like watching somebody push the game to its absolute limits.
Yeah.
For this, really for the sake of just entertainment, that's what it comes down to. I know a lot of people that I think the scientific word is butthurt about speedruns because
Oh, yeah.
the argument is that you're not really experiencing the game, which is true. I mean, if you're
I
doing
guess
it, well, it
in a
depends.
sense, you're not enjoying the game, but to me, they're the people who enjoy the game the most. You understand, like people don't understand how much time they
Yeah.
literally put into each game.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally one of the only games that they play. Like,
Yes.
once they find a game that they are like, I'm gonna keep setting the record in this
Mhm.
game. Like, I'm gonna keep doing this.
Yeah.
they're devoted to that game.
Mhm.
Like that's all they play
Yeah.
is that game. So in a sense, you love the game more than
Oh, yeah.
anything. You know, like you wanted to find out everything about the game.
Mhm. Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. But let's, to play the devil's advocate, the argument seems to be that like you're ruining the game by
Right.
not
Not
following it
enjoying it.
as the designer intended or the designers
Right.
intended. Um,
I could get that. When it
and
comes
I
down to the
yeah.
fact of like Super Meat Boy, though, then you get the people who, because there's really no glitches in that game,
Yeah.
so to say. There's just people with raw fucking skill
Yeah.
playing that game, and then that is personally when I watch the game being
Yeah.
played by them, I'm like, this is how the game is supposed to be played.
Oh man.
Like this is
So
how
crazy.
people are supposed to play this game. Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to get this good because oh my god, those people are fucking insane in that game.
And that game is so impossibly difficult to watch
It
a
is.
speedrunner blast through that game and like what is a 106% run
Yeah.
is uh what's a good word, like demoralizing is a good word for it, because you're just watching it, it's like, man, that took me 8 hours to do this one level and this dude just
Right.
did it in like 30 seconds
Right.
without a single death. I'm just never gonna play a video game again in my life because I can't do shit. It's from a, of course I'm joking, but from a, it's a good sobering reminder of, oh man, that was really well done. And yeah, I actually can't beat that game now because it's been so long, or these other
Right.
things.
I'm very
But
rusty
yeah,
at that game now.
yeah,
Like if I go back to it, I'm just like I can't even fucking complete the
yeah,
first couple levels.
it's rough.
But I know I do agree with you playing the devil's advocate on being like
Mm.
you're not enjoying the game because there are games that do deserve to be played through slow.
There
You
are.
know, like I know people are speed running The Last of Us. You know,
Yes.
and that is a game that I personally don't care about being speedrun because I feel like that game is a narrative game.
Yeah.
Like that's not a game to be speedrun through. That's a game to enjoy the story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can understand. I think a lot of games do have that place. Like
Yeah.
obviously if you're going to play Legend of Zelda for the
Mhm.
first time and you're going to play Ocarina of Time, I would never suggest you to fucking speedrun through.
Oh,
You know, like I
God.
wouldn't suggest like please take your time,
Oh.
listen to all the text from listen, look at all the text from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Listen.
that game is very rich with an awesome story.
Oh.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I can understand where everyone is
Mhm.
coming from, being like you're not enjoying the game.
Yeah.
I just think it's a different perspective.
It is.
When you look at it from a speedrun perspective, is like I love this game so much that I want to hold a record for it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that, and it's of course gaining more prominence. Awesome Games Done Quick and Summer Games Done Quick, which is coming up in just a few months. Are two annual events. Both of them happen once a year, and they both bring in a lot of donations to a lot of
They
great
do.
charities. And
It's only increased every year,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
yeah, it's
So-
only risen quite dramatically each year. It's always a
Right.
substantial increase, and the speedrunning community, or surrounding it, is full of lots of hardworking and honestly just I've never met any of them, but they seem like just really awesome people that are very
Right.
friendly and very used to narrating themselves when they do a speedrun, because
Yeah, I mean,
oftentimes they stream on Twitch.
Right, they stream, so they're used to having the crowd with them to be
Yeah.
able to kind of. They're used to being able to tell you exactly what is going on. The first speedrun I ever really watched before I realized speedrunning was a thing
Yeah,
it was a couple years ago when I was watching Cosmo do Ocarina of Time,
Cosmo.
right? And I was just really impressed with the
Oh.
fact that whenever he was doing his speedrun, he was literally going through everything.
Yep.
Like, it was during Awesome Games Done Quick.
Yeah.
And it was him doing Ocarina of Time, and he was narrating everything that he was doing and
Yep.
letting you know what exactly it was doing. So like he was like, yeah, I'm gonna use the stakey stick and I'm gonna I'm gonna glitch it out to where
Oh.
it's gonna hit Goma a million times in a second,
Yep.
like. And I'm like, okay, I understand this. And he's like, and then I'm gonna go back to the store and it's gonna be glitched because I picked up the ocarina and I started doing the song right as the scene started playing.
Yep.
And he's like, and then that loads this into the memory. So when he was explaining that, I was like, this is a fucking marvel. Like,
Yeah.
how many people had to work on this to get this going? And then he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, we've been doing this speedrunning community for 6 and 7 years
Yeah.
now, and we've been trying. I'm just like, that's fucking dedication.
Yeah.
Like that is when you know you found something that you thoroughly enjoy, and I'm glad that he's pursuing it the way he is.
Yes.
So
Do you have a favorite speedrunner?
Favorite speedrunner? I don't have a favorite speedrunner. I do like Cosmo quite a bit. He's very good at narration.
Oh,
Honestly, I have no favorite speedrunners. I watch the Kingdom Hearts guys all the time with trying to set new records and stuff. I love that Awesome Games Done Quick this year. They basically they didn't all play one playthrough. They all played one playthrough, so they split up the playthrough between each other,
yeah,
and they ended up beating any of their records.
yeah.
So with all three of them playing, they got a higher the time that they beat the game in
Oh.
far surpassed any of their own completions.
That's awesome.
Because the one guy I remember, like halfway through, he's like, well, what's the time on getting into this certain spot? And he was like, oh, it's like 2 hours and 30 minutes. He's like, what? He's like, what? How are we this far ahead? Like he's like this is going to be a PR for me. He's like, for sure. Like this is the fastest I've ever did it. And then when they finished up the game, they were like, this is absolutely faster than anyone has ever done.
That's awesome.
So
With their powers combined. No, that's great.
right.
That's fantastic. I actually had not heard that.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick a favorite speedrunner, I'd probably go with Cerno. Or Kerno, I guess, the CIR.
What does he play?
Plays a bunch of different stuff. The main one that he's big on is Half-Life. And he has also actually started running Half-Life 2 recently as well. But he does a number of other games. He he's done speedruns of System Shock 2, Quake 2, Quake and Quake 3. Well, no, he's played Quake 3, but he was talking about this. He'd played Quake 3, but he does runs of Quake 1, Doom 1 and 2, Half-Life 1 and 2, Super Meat Boy, and Dark Souls.
God, he plays a lot.
Yes, and
he's a busy man.
He is. He streams just about every day of the week, with the exception of Thursdays, and on the weekends it's kind of iffy.
Right.
But very consistent streamer and a really, really awesome dude, and very, very good at chat interaction and describing what he's doing and answering questions, all while pulling off these ridiculously stupid tricks that just don't make out as he do it. So yeah, Cerno TV is his. In fact, I'll type it into the chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is an awesome dude. Cerno, I think it's _TV.
I'm gonna have to look him up because it sounds very.
Yeah,
interesting.
he's an awesome guy, and it's tough to pick a favorite, but he's the one that I go to. Cause like if I see a bunch of people that I follow are streaming and he's one of them, I always go to Cerno because he's such a positive guy to watch. There have been so many times in the past couple months where I would come home from a shitty day at work, see he's streaming, and be like, suddenly I feel better. It's just watching him beat the shit out of these games that are usually quite difficult.
Right.
And being just such an awesome fan-friendly guy while doing so is very encouraging. But and of course there are different types of speedruns. There's any percent, like you mentioned, Justin, where it's where all bets are off. You can do whatever it takes to get to that credit sequence, which means you can skip as much as you want.
I guess I should mention that the Kingdom Hearts ones that I was watching were 100%. Right?
Yes, yeah.
So
and that's the other thing
those
too,
are my favorite runs, are knowing basically how fast can I complete this entire game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and 100% speed runs, man, multiple hours, and I don't even want to imagine what that must be to practice and rehearse and prepare for that kind of thing. It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's of course 100%, or in the case of Dark Souls, all bosses runs, or with Legend of Zelda, all medallions runs. So there's so many different ways to do it.
Right, and it's different for almost every title.
It is. I mean, yeah. There's different rules. So depending on obviously glitches and exploits, unless it's a glitchless or an exploitless run, there are categories for that. You can't use cheat codes, even though oftentimes they're built into the game. Cheat codes are off limits. So there are things you are not allowed to do. But yeah, it's one of my favorite hobbies from from the whole video games as a form of spectator entertainment.
I think it's a good form of spectator entertainment. To be honest, so I mean, I would personally go to an Awesome Games Done Quick and have a blast.
Oh yeah,
watching everybody do everything and talking to everybody. So
I've seriously considered the prospect of going to either AGDQ or SGDQ.
Yeah, I mean, I would. It would be
awesome. It would be awesome. So, we'll have to. if at some point that does become a possibility, we'll have to talk and see if we could.
I think it's going to be a possibility. We should probably shoot for Awesome Games Done Quick in the the winter.
That would be awesome. The only tricky part is that that's around the time where MagFest is, and MagFest is a guaranteed thing for me. So it's like that's why
Well,
it's tricky
snap.
for me. But
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah,
I get
we'll see
that.
what happens. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it would be so
Where's
cool
it
to go
typically?
there.
Where's it typically at?
At AGDQ? You know,
Mhm.
I could be mistaken. I think it might be different every year.
Oh, okay.
I want to say that this past year, it's one Google search away from verifying this, so I'm afraid to say something and have it be completely
Just say
batshit
it.
wrong.
Just say it.
I think it was somewhere up north. I want to say like somewhere near like Minneapolis. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
Like somewhere around that area. I
Gotcha.
could be completely dead wrong, and I expect that I'm
Okay.
dead wrong, and for everyone to hate me.
Okay.
But yeah. But I think it's different every year. Same with SGDQ. AGDQ is the larger of the two, as the name might imply. That's the big blowout event. But SGDQ is still fairly good, and I think it's also an entire week long. So you get a nice amount of types of runs and a nice variety of them too. So not just the big games, but the obscure ones too. In HDQ this year, there was a three-way Bomberman 64 speedrun that, of course, I watched
Oh,
live
yeah.
because it was fucking awesome. So
That I did see that. That
Yes.
was a pretty awesome.
yeah, and it's of course a great way to discover new runners. So I
Yeah.
get like 5 to 10 new people that I follow on whenever on Twitch whenever there's a new
Mhm.
GDQ of some degree. Because it's like, man, this guy's really cool. Man, this person's they know what they're doing, and this is great, and they're informative.
Yeah,
and
that's
friendly.
pretty much how I am too.
Yeah, it's nice. So
I'll
hit
get
that
like
follow button.
I'll subscribe to someone else on YouTube, or I'll subscribe to like
Yeah.
their Twitter handle or something,
Yep.
and let me know whenever they're gonna be streaming. So
That's great, man. Well, that's a nice positive note to end on. I think we've been going.
it is.
For,
I believe so.
I think we've been going for like what, an hour and a half or so,
Something like that.
something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any counter on my screen right now.
I don't either. So we'll just go. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But this was good. I hopefully the weekly format will work out for us.
Yeah, I think it
Um,
will. I will. We'll create some new topics and we'll go forward. So and
Excellent.
there's always something happening in the video game industry nowadays
Oh, yeah.
that we can never run out of things to talk
Oh, yeah.
about. So
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, a lot of times when it
Yeah.
comes down to just we talked about a lot of stuff that dropped just today, like the Black Mesa thing. So there's never a
Right.
shortage.
exactly.
But all right, well, let's go on. Let's go
All
and call it here.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone in
So
the chat.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks anyone who joined and talked to us for a bit and watched along. It was awesome.
It was good. It was good. We'll be uploading
So
this to YouTube.
our next one should be back to our normal format, which is not Skype. So
Yes.
our next one should be back to our normal format where me and Alex will be in the same room,
Yep.
holding hands under the table. You can't
Yes.
see that, but we are.
All part of the mystique. All part of the illusion. All right.
So
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Thanks for anyone in the chat who's still here. And see you next week.
yep. See you next week.
All right. Have a good night, Justin.
Have a good one.